Is it visible? Our PPT is visible? दिसतात का PPT? Hello.
हो सर दिसते.
Okay, thank
Hello.
you. So let us start with our lecture from plant physiology portion. Our chapter is water absorption, and from that chapter we are going to discuss today regarding the mechanism of water absorption. So you can see here a beautiful picture for water absorption in plants. We are going to study the process, mechanism, method by which water absorption in plants takes place, how it is a physiological process. And before that, we have to understand what is the path or pathway of water absorption. We know that terrestrial plants absorb water from the soil. Soil solution or soil water is the main source of water for terrestrial plants. And this water in the soil is available after a shower of rain. So the rainwater is the main source of water for the soil. And whatever water is present in the soil, that is the total amount of water present in the soil, is called as holad. And out of that holad, there is a type of water called as E-card, which is not available for plants for water absorption. And this water is also called as gravitational water, which percolates down the soil. It goes very deep into the soil layers. So that water is not available for plant for water absorption. It is called as gravitational water or E-card. And out of the holad, there is another type of water called as Chisard or capillary water, which is available for plants for water absorption. This capillary water is present, or it forms a thin film around the non-colloidal soil particles, and that water, capillary water, is available for plant for water absorption. Okay, so this is soil water. There are different regions of roots, like at the very tip of the root, there is a root cap, and then that root cap is followed by different regions, three distinct regions, that is region of cell division, region of cell elongation, region of cell differentiation, also called as region of maturation. So figure is on the next slide, region of cell division, which is also called as region of meristematic activity, where new cells are formed by cell division process. Then it is followed by cell elongation region, where newly formed cells elongate or enlarge. There is increase in the size of these cells, so that the root cell or the root as itself it increases in size. Then that region is followed by region of cell differentiation or region of cell maturation, where the cells get differentiated to perform specific functions. And this region of cell differentiation also consists of many unicellular hair-like structures, and these are called as root hairs. And these root hairs are nothing but the single cells. These are epidermal cells. These are the extensions of epidermal cells, and these root hairs are in direct contact with the capillary water, which is present in the form of a thin film around the soil myceli. So this region of cell differentiation is also called as the region of root hairs. So you can see here, let me show you. Okay, see here, at the very tip there is root cap, followed by region of cell division, region of cell elongation, region of cell differentiation or maturation. And this region consists of many root hairs, unicellular extended structures, and these are root hairs responsible for water absorption. So this region of cell maturation or region of differentiation is also called as region of root hairs, which is directly involved in the process of water absorption. Now come to the mechanism of water absorption. What is the actual process? What is the physiology of this method of water absorption? How water is absorbed inside the plant body, and what are different forces that are responsible for carrying out this process in plant body? When we study any process or any method, any physiological method, it is of two types: active method and passive method. Now we have studied the phenomenon of diffusion, the movement of any substance from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. So if the phenomenon is reverse, that is, if it is the movement against the concentration gradient, that is from the region of lower concentration to the region of higher concentration. Sometimes it also happens that there is movement against the concentration gradient from the region of lower concentration to the region of higher concentration, and this is called as the movement against the concentration gradient, movement against the diffusion pressure gradient. And for performing this type of movement, there is always a need of energy. There is always expenditure of metabolic energy, and this energy is required for performing this type of process. And when this is the situation, when the movement is against the concentration gradient, when it is from the region of lower concentration to higher concentration, when there is requirement of energy for performing this work, the method is called as active method. This is the general concept of active method and passive method. The reverse of this will be true for passive method, that we'll discuss. So when we consider the phenomenon of water absorption, there is one more concept regarding the active and passive method, and this is the concept is roots. When roots are active in the process of water absorption, the process is called as active process of water absorption, active method of water absorption. This is true when energy is required, when the movement is against the concentration gradient. All processes are called as active method. But in case of water absorption by roots, the active involvement of roots is also considered for the process to be called as, to be known as active method of water absorption. That is, the forces responsible for water absorption are set up in the cells of the roots itself, or then okay. This method is also called as water push method. Now, why it is called as water push method, that we'll discuss later. So come to the second type, that is passive method of water absorption. As you studied here, the movement is against the concentration gradient. Here the movement will be along the concentration gradient, down the concentration gradient. That means usual movement, that is from the region of higher concentration to the region of lower concentration. So it is a simple physical process, it is a spontaneous process, it is automatic process, and there is no need of energy for performing this type of movement. So this method is called as passive method. When there is no need of energy, the method is called as passive method. The physiological process is called as passive process. Now, when it comes to water absorption, again, when the forces responsible for water absorption are set up in the cells other than that of the roots, that means roots remain passive here. The forces responsible are set up in the shoot system, in the aerial parts of the plant body. So where it develops, where those forces develop, that we'll discuss later in discussion of passive method. But here at this level, you see, when roots are active, method is called as active method of water absorption. When roots are passive, method is called as passive method of water absorption. When energy is required, method is called active. When energy is not required, method is called as passive method. As this method is called as water push method, passive method of water absorption is called as water pull method. Water is pulled. How it is pulled, that we'll discuss later. So this is the main difference between active mechanism of water absorption and passive mechanism of water absorption. Active process, passive process. And these processes are studied after studying different theories proposed by different scientists, different botanists, different plant physiologists from time to time. So that we'll discuss later. Okay. So see here, methods of water absorption. Here is a recap: active method, passive method. Active method of water absorption is of two types: osmotic method of water absorption and non-osmotic method of water absorption. Now, what is osmotic method? What is non-osmotic method? Now, which method is involved in passive method? Whether it is osmotic or non-osmotic, or whether it is else, that we'll discuss one by one. So here again, look at the recap: methods of water absorption. Mechanism of water absorption can be studied by either active method or passive method. Active mechanism, passive mechanism. Osmotic method, non-osmotic method of water absorption. We'll have a look at all those processes one by one. So first is active water absorption, where energy is required, where roots are active in the process of water absorption. It is of two types, osmotic and non-osmotic. Just now we have discussed this. So we'll see first type, that is osmotic type of water absorption. The first method of water absorption, which is active method, it is proposed by two scientists, Atkins and Priestley, in different years, see 1916 and 1922. The same method, the same concept was proposed by two different scientists at two different places, because at those times it was not possible for the very quick communications for the fraternity of scientists. So whenever there were conferences organized, in those conferences they used to present their papers, and if the same concept is proposed by a different scientist, they could get their claim valid for those. So Atkins in 1916 and Priestley in 1922 proposed osmotic type of active method of water absorption. Now, what was their concept? What was their postulations? What was their suggestions regarding the mechanism of water absorption? Is that, according to them, the water is absorbed due to osmotic difference between the soil water and cell water, soil solution and cell solution, soil sap or cell sap. Now, how it happens, that we'll see now. You see here, when we take TS, transverse section of root, dicot or monocot root, then we can see epidermis, cortex, stele, and this root here you can see here. This is the actual section, TS of monocot root, epidermal. This is epidermal root here. This is the outermost region, epidermis, and this is multi-layered cortex. Okay, and this is diagrammatic one. This is not figure, and I have drawn this diagram, and I am not very good in figures, so you can consider it as a diagrammatic just for the purpose of understanding. You can see here, this is TS of dicot root showing three distinct regions. The very outermost region is called as epidermis, the middle region is called as cortex, and the centralmost region is called as stele, which consists of vascular bundles. Okay, epidermis is outermost region, single layered, and this you can see, this is a root hair, and this is a single cell. Root hair is single cell. This is single epidermal cell. This is an extension of epidermal cell, and it is followed by many cells of cortex, and this is the innermost layer of cortex, and this innermost layer of cortex is called as endodermis. You can see here, you see here, endodermis, and this endodermis is followed by this layer, and this is called as pericycle. This pericycle is the outermost layer of stele. Inside this pericycle, you can see here, there are four patches, and these are xylem, red colored xylem vessels. This is xylem. This smaller one is called as protoxylem, the first formed xylem, and the larger one is called as metaxylem. The xylem which is formed later in the development is called as metaxylem, and this is protoxylem towards the periphery. So this is called as exarch situation, and as there are four patches of xylem, this is called as tetrarch. This is phloem. You can see here, this one, phloem. So phloem is alternating with xylem. Xylem, you can see xylem are present on the same radius, phloem on the same radius. So such a type of vascular bundles are called as radial vascular bundles, and radial vascular bundles is the characteristic features of roots, whether of dicot or monocot. Here you can see limited number of xylem, tetrarch condition. So if there is only one xylem, it is monarch. If two xylem, diarch, three triarch, here four tetrarch, and if there are more than four, then the condition is called as polyarch, many xylem, and that is the characteristic feature of monocot root. As you can see here, this is xylem, many patches of xylem. This is polyarch condition, monocot root. This is stele, and this outer region is called as cortex, and this very outermost layer. This is endodermis, innermost layer of cortex, and this is followed by the inner layer called as pericycle. Okay, endodermis, pericycle, xylem, and these are phloem patches. Okay, let's come back to this. So here, this epidermal cell or the root hair is in direct contact with the water, capillary water, which forms a thin film around these soil particles or non-colloidal soil particles called as soil myceli. Here is water, and this is root hair. So the very first step in the water absorption process is imbibition, because the cell wall of this root hair is double layered. It consists of outer layer made up of pectin or pectose substances and the inner layer made up of cellulose. So this pectocellulose layer is hydrophilic. It is made up of hydrophilic substances, pectocellulose. So due to hydrophilic nature or colloidal nature, the first step is imbibition of water on the cell wall of this root hair cell. Now what happens, you see, this is soil solution. This is not pure water. Though it is soil water, it is not pure because some minerals or inorganic salts are also dissolved in this water. Therefore, it is called as soil solution or soil sap. So similarly, inside this root hair, we have studied this. There is a vacuole and there is water present in the root hair, and that water which is present inside the root hair cell is called as cell water or cell sap or cell solution. So there is presence of two solutions. You can see here. Outer solution is soil solution. Inner solution is cell solution. Outer is soil sap. Inner is cell sap. And these two solutions you can see here are separated by means of this plasma membrane of the root hair cell, which acts as the semi-permeable membrane. So here is a typical situation where there are two solutions separated by semi-permeable membrane, and this situation favors the process of osmosis to take place. Now we know that when the two solutions of different concentration are separated from each other by means of semi-permeable membrane, there is movement of pure water from the region of its higher concentration to the region of its lower concentration through semi-permeable membrane. So the water from outside will enter inside the cell. You can see here. It will enter inside the root hair by the process of osmosis, and this inward movement of water is called as endosmosis. So when water enters the root hair cell, the cell sap of root hair gets diluted. It becomes dilute as compared to the neighboring cortical cell. Every cell has cell sap and their concentration is initially equal. But now, due to entry of water inside the root hair, its cell sap has become diluted as compared to the neighboring cortical cell. And these two, root hair cell, which is an epidermal cell, and the cortical cell, again they are separated by plasma membrane or semi-permeable membrane. So now water from root hair will move inside the neighboring cortical cell. Now when water enters this cell, again it becomes diluted. Cell sap becomes diluted as compared to these neighboring cell, which are now concentrated cell. So here concentrated solution is present, here dilute solution is present. So what will move inside this concentrated cell? So it will be like this. The movement will be like this. Okay, see here. Water will enter here, then water will go here, then here, here, due to development of diffusion pressure gradient or concentration gradient, water will move from cell to cell by endosmosis till it reaches the endodermis, the innermost layer of cortex. Now there is a problem. What is the problem? That endodermis is made up of Casparin strips. That is, these Casparin strips are made up of one fatty substance called as suberin, which are impervious or impermeable to water. That means water cannot directly enter the endodermal cell due to presence of this fatty substance called as suberin. But very close to those cells, there are some thin-walled cells here you can see, which are without this Casparin strips or without suberin, through which water enters the endodermis, and these cells are called as passage cells. And then from passage cells, water will enter inside the this layer. This is called as pericycle, and from pericycle then water will go to protoxylem, and then from protoxylem it will move to metaxylem. So these are xylem, and xylem, we know xylem vessels are water conducting tissues, and then water will go to different parts of the plant body through this xylem channel. Xylem of shoot, xylem of branches, xylem of leaves, xylem of flower, and all these. Okay, so this all is happening due to process of endosmosis. You can see here. Can you see? Water is going inside xylem step by step, cell to cell by endosmosis due to difference in concentration. You can see here. Water is entering here, then going here in the epidermis, cortex, innermost layer of cortex, passage cells, pericycle, and inside xylem. So this is osmotic method of water absorption, first type of active method. Now, there are some objections to this theory, such that some scientists say when water enters the xylem vessel from the pericycle, there is one problem. That problem is that the cell sap of xylem is already dilute, because xylem are water conducting vessels. There is a plenty of water. So how can water enters from the region of, you see, higher concentration to lower concentration, because concentration of water is already higher here. So how the process for endosmosis is applicable here? That is one thing. Secondly, tracheids, which are the cells of xylem, they are without semi-permeable membrane. So if there is no semi-permeable membrane, there is no plasma membrane, how the process of osmosis could take place? How endosmosis concept is applicable here? That is another problem. And one more demerit of this theory is that there is nowhere the concept of energy is discussed. Though the process is active method, it is taking along the concentration gradient, and therefore there is no involvement of energy. There is no need of energy. It's a simple physical process of osmosis. But some scientists argue that the maintenance of solute inside the cell sap must be requiring some sort of energy, and therefore process can be called as active method. This osmotic water absorption is a type of active absorption because it is requiring some energy to maintain solute inside the cell sap. And secondly, there is direct involvement of all these cells of roots, So this method is called as active method of water absorption. We'll discuss one more theory of water absorption because we are again running short of time, and then we'll stop. Okay, the next method is non-osmotic method of water absorption, another type of active method of water absorption. This theory, like Atkins and Priestley, who proposed osmotic theory of water absorption, this theory of water absorption, called as non-osmotic water absorption, is proposed by again two scientists, and these were Thiemann and Kramer. Again, in two different years, 1951 and 1959. Thiemann and Kramer proposed non-osmotic theory of water absorption. According to these two scientists, water absorption is a type of active method. It is an active process, but according to them, it takes place due to non-osmotic reason. It is not osmotic type of water absorption, but it is non-osmotic water absorption. And as the method is active, according to them, there is involvement of energy. Energy is required to perform the function of water absorption. There is expenditure of metabolic energy. But how actually this energy is utilized by plants for performing the function of water absorption, it is not well explained by these scientists. It is not well explained by this theory of water absorption. They say that there is need of energy for performing this function of water absorption. But how actually plants utilize this energy, which is obtained from respiration, it is in the form of ATP. How those ATPs are utilized for performing the function of water absorption is not utilized by these two scientists. But there are some supporting points of this theory which can be called as merits. The first merit is that they postulate that the process of water absorption is aerobic, and the roots of plants absorb water under conditions which are favorable for respiration. Are you getting? That means those plants which are growing in a condition which is not waterlodged or flooded areas, in those conditions only water absorption can take place. If the soil is water lodged, or if the soil is flooded area, if there is plenty of water, in that case, even if more amount of water is present in the soil, roots fail to absorb water because they cannot respire. There is a deficit of oxygen, and if they are not getting oxygen, they will also not show the process of water absorption. So there is the correlation between respiration and water absorption, because during respiration, energy is produced in the form of ATP, and that metabolic energy is directly used for the process of water absorption by plant. Second is respiratory inhibitors, the substances like potassium cyanide or very low temperature treatment or chemical substances like malonate. These substances inhibit the process of respiration, and it is also shown that these substances also inhibit the process of water absorption. So there are chances to show that there may be some link between the process of water absorption and respiration, diurnal phenomenon. The rate of respiration is faster during daytime, and this is also true for water absorption. The process of water absorption is faster during daytime. So this is again showing that there is a link between the process of water absorption and respiration. Then some hormones like auxins, in a very low concentration, they increase the process of water uptake. And this also suggests that water absorption is a vital process like respiration, because there is involvement of hormones in the process. And it is found that respiration takes place, or respiration is carried out by only living cells, and the process of water absorption is also possible for the living cells of plants only. If the cells are dead, even if they are dipped in water, they can absorb water for some time, but afterwards they will not be, it will not be possible for plants, plant cells to absorb water, because only living cells can absorb water when they will get energy from respiration process. So this also shows that there is a direct link between the process of respiration and the process of water absorption, denoting that it is a non-osmotic active method of water absorption. Okay, passive method of water absorption and the factors which affect the method of water absorption that we'll have in the next lecture. And I would like to have some questions if there are. Yes, any questions? Do you have any questions? No question regarding water absorption, active method, passive method, osmotic water absorption, non-osmotic water absorption. Passive method of water absorption we'll discuss in next lecture. Tomorrow we'll have that, and the factors affecting water absorption. No question. If you have any query, question, you can also post, or you can also post here, or you can also post those questions in the WhatsApp group. Okay, I can see many names here in the chat. Actually, that is not needed because I can see how many participants are here. So, shall I close the meeting? If there are no questions, shall I close it? Hello, am I audible? Can you hear me? Hello, am I audible? आवाज ऐकू येतो की नाही?
येतोय सर.
येतो ना? थांबायचं मग आपण आता? येतो सर. ओके ओके, थँक्यू थँक्यू.
चालेल.
ठीक आहे, आपण उद्या भेटू. We'll meet again tomorrow with passive water absorption and factors affecting water absorption. Okay, okay, bye. Okay, thank you.